Okay, boys and girls, today we are going to be looking at Chapter 9-1, Solve Quadratic Equations using the square root method. And this is another way that we can solve quadratic equations. We've got two other ways that we've learned so far. What are those options? Well, the first one is to factor, and the second one is to use x-intercepts. Alright, so the third one that we're going to be learning today is using the square root property. Okay, so the square root property means that if I have, for example, x squared equals 9, in order to solve that, I would take the square root of both sides. And that tells me that x could be a 3, or you must always remember that it could also be negative, because negative 3 squared would equal 9, and so would 3 squared. So there are two possible answers, as we have been seeing for quadratic equations. So let's do some examples. X squared equals 49. So like I said, take the square root of both sides, and x equals positive or negative 7. Try the second example. When we're solving these, you want to make sure that the exponent is all by itself on one side of the equation. So if you notice, here the exponent is not all by itself. It's being multiplied by 2. So we're going to divide by 2, backwards through PEMDAS, to make it all by itself. That gives me x squared equals 2. Take the square root of both sides. So x equals the positive or the negative square root of 2. The square root of 2 is left like that because it's not a perfect square. We can't find exactly what it equals like we did in part A. So if it's not exactly a whole number, you would leave it as the square root. Let's try another. In this example, is the square root all by itself on one side of the equation? It is. So we're going to take the square root of this side and the square root of this side. That makes the square disappear, and we're left with y minus 3 equals plus or minus 2. At this stage, it is recommended that you split it into two different equations. Either y minus 3 is going to be positive 2, or y minus 3 is going to be negative 2. Add 3 to both sides. Y could be 5. Add 3 to both sides. Y could be 1. Final answer. In this case, is the x squared all by itself? It is not. So the first thing we're going to do is get the x squared by itself. That gives us x squared equals negative 4. Question for you. Is a number times a number ever going to give you a negative answer? The answer is no. There is no solution here. If something squared equals negative, that's going to be your no solution. You can't take the square root of a negative number. All right, let's do one last example. Oh, this is just like one we already did. Notice the squared is all by itself on one side of the equation, so we can take the square root of both sides. X plus 2 then equals, oops, I guess I don't need those parentheses. Oh, I might as well just rewrite the whole thing. X plus 2 equals, what's the square root of 25? Plus or minus 5. Now you know what to do. Split it into two equations. X plus 2 equals 5, or x plus 2 equals negative 5. Subtract 2 from both sides. X equals 3, or subtract 2 from both sides. x equals -7. And remember, just like in the other problems, we could check these two answers. You would just go plug it in for x and make sure it worked. So 3 plus 2 is 5, squared is 25. -7 plus 2 is 5, squared is 25. All right? So homework is short, quick, and easy, Chapter 9-1 on My Math Lab. Yes, Chapter 9.